him all. He buy you land and house.
Good morning. It's a Tuesday morning where we continue to talk real estate. We engage the professionals. We speak about what is happening in the market, where we're going in our market, what is the condition of our market in Dominica. And a subject this morning that we have not touched on is property rental, whether it's commercial or residential. And this is what we're going to visit this morning, talk a little bit about rental. Real estate and renting is our topic this morning. So when we come back, we will meet our guests and we will continue to discuss. This is Real Estate Talk.
Real Estate Talk with host Marianne Johnfin, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. Real Estate Talk is aired on the big station Q95 FM every Tuesday morning from 10:15 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Real Estate Talk is talking primarily on all things real estate, commercial and residential. We talk about the real estate market. We talk about the market conditions for buying and selling. We talk about choosing a professional real estate agent. We talk about financing your purchase and finding the right property. We engage the experts with specific roles in the process of buying and selling real estate. Real Estate Talk every Tuesday on Q95 FM from 10:15 a.m. with host Marianne Johnfin.
And we are back. Welcome again, Real Estate Talk with Marianne, as we said before. And this morning we are taking it to a different place where we are visiting a subject that we have not spoken about, and that is important also in real estate. Many of us have properties that we wish to rent instead of selling. You look at it as an income generating property, and you want to know, or you want to discuss it and find out what is the best way to go about it, what is happening in the market, what are clients looking for, what is content of a contract, what is my responsibility as a homeowner, and what is the tenant's responsibility. I have tried to discuss with the Ministry of Housing. There's a department that deals with rent, and I've tried to invite them to come and talk with us. I think we're still working on that in regards to the rules, the laws, if there are any, and that have not happened. But with me this morning is a good friend of mine, Mr. Shagan James. Really always a pleasure to have you with us in studio.
Indeed, always a pleasure, Marianne.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Happy to be back. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you so much.
I'm really happy. You are involved in renting rentals of property, finding rental for clients or listing persons' property tell me
property management.
Property management. So tell me what is happening out there in terms of renting.
What is happening in terms of renting? That's a broad question.
Well, it's a broad question. Let's break it down and let's say, is there demand?
Yes, there's always a demand for rentals. Like any other business, any other retail business, it's supply and demand.
It's supply and demand.
Well, retail, wholesale, any business, it's supply and demand. So there is a demand for rentals. There is a supply of rentals. Now, the issue is, or what we all trying to do, is meet supply and demand.
Right.
So if we want product A but product B is on the market, we clash.
Yes.
And we find that often in the market.
Yes.
The lower end rentals between say $800 to even $1,600. those are the more popular rentals. Obviously, you have rentals lower than that, but those are the that's the more popular price range.
Right.
So if we had more of that on the market, I'm sure we'd be making a lot more
commission.
We'll be a lot more
happier,
successful in terms of meeting the tenants who are out there with the owners who are out there.
Right.
So that is not in high demand. That is not in high supply,
right,
as particularly to the realtors, because what happens is that because that is in such high demand, with us the realtors, I usually find that I just have a waiting list. If one happens to come up,
right,
we call someone and we can place them right away.
Right.
However, because it is in such high demand, a lot of those properties in that price range, they don't come to us, to be quite honest, because you can find someone in the community who's willing to rent. A friend of a friend is willing to rent. So really and truly, that's why we end up with what you call the higher end properties, which are more difficult to find tenants for, and that's where we fit in.
That's where we fit in.
Right. We have to get on the ground, do our work, make our phone calls, send out our emails, and you know it is. Right?
There are different types of rentals. Can you explain to the listeners the different types of rentals?
Okay, so I'm assuming you mean short-term rentals.
Yes.
Long-term rentals
and commercial
rentals, right?
Can you? Okay. Commercial is easy to understand.
Right. So that's short-term residential, long-term residential.
Right. Explain this too for me.
Okay. Well, in terms of the short-term rentals, I like to break it down into the commercial short-term rentals. When I say commercial short-term, I'm talking about the holiday rentals and that kind of thing. And then you have the rental properties that really cater to people who coming in on with businesses. So they're not coming in for a holiday, but they're coming in with a business. For example, business, Marianne real estate company. No, and to actually use your Diamond Realty. Diamond Realty is bringing in a consultant from your old market, say St. Martin, and they're here for 1 week. So that's really a business concern, not vacation, and they need somewhere to stay for that short period.
Right.
So you have that type of rental. Once you get a foot in with the business community in Dominica, you can actually be very successful in that vein, going on that vein. Then you have vacation rentals. You have the Creole Festival, the Carnival, the Christmas, the New Year's, the Independence, the wedding celebrations, the birthday celebrations, the funeral. So you have that type of rental as well, and that is another area of another good income stream. But you have to have the right type of rental, because someone coming down on business for a week, typically you find them coming in alone.
Right.
Maybe with one other business partner, or they may want 2 one-bedroom apartments. When you have family coming down for funerals, weddings, Creole Festival, Carnival, you usually have larger groups, and they're looking for 2-3 bedroom homes or apartments, or they may be looking for a 1 bedroom, and then you find a family member brings in a mattress, and all of a sudden you have 6-7 people in a 1 bedroom apartment. And I mentioned that 6-7 people in a 1 bedroom apartment because what I usually tell my clients, that those are the owners, is that there's a different pricing structure for a property meant for 2 individuals, and you now have 3 or 4 or 5 coming in. Now you don't always have to reject the rental, because the local saying 2 money doesn't fight. Right. So you want to make that income, but you want to ensure that you are properly compensated for the usage of your property, because the wear and tear on your property is higher. You have 6 people using a bathroom as opposed to 2. Using your furniture as opposed to 2, electricity, air conditioning as opposed, So those are the categories you have as we discussed earlier.
And the long term, I want to go back into focus on that a little bit, what is required and what is expected.
Okay.
But also just break down for me what is the long term rental.
Well, the long term rentals for the majority of my clients, in terms of what you'll call home properties, full residential properties, that's the creme de la creme. You get someone coming in at the price that you want, and they sign a 1-year lease agreement with you. So for the next 12 months, you're basically secured. If it's $1,600, $2,500, $3,000, $4,000, and that's locked in. And there are certain aspects to the contract which guarantee certain things, conditions. It allows you to exit that contract with certain conditions, and there are a lot of different machinations which you can get into a contract. So I always tell my clients, I would send you this contract to have a look.
A draft.
Right? So this is what I call a general agreement. But then we're always tweaking. So I always tell my clients that every single contract is unique. There is no contract that I can send out wholesale.
Right.
And it's just signed, and that's that. Okay.
Your special needs and
Correct.
desires from each. Now, in a short-term or vacation rental, what is it that some owners need to be aware of when you are doing a short-term rental or vacation rental? What are they should be aware of? The amenities that needs to be there and things like that.
The primary thing when dealing with a short-term rental, Marianne, is it has to be a home away from home. You're coming in and you don't expect to have to look for towels. You don't expect to have to
So it has to
look
have
for,
like a similar, like a hotel feel.
Exactly. You don't expect to look for bed sheets, pillows, that kind of thing. Teacups, plates, those kind of things.
Kettles.
Everything has to be in place, including your soap, your toiletries. All those things need to be in place. So basically, when you go, for someone like me, when I go into a short-term rental, a vacation rental, and I look around and I go down my checklist, or my assistant goes down her checklist, what we are basically looking for is, our standard is, can you, as this individual, can you, as the one looking at this unit, can you move in today with a suitcase of clothes? Can you be comfortable today with just your personal items? And if everything checks out, then you're good to go. Obviously, you have to look at things like electricity usage,
Right.
which is it's a small thing when you just mention electricity usage,
Right.
but it's very important.
Very.
Because,
explain that for us.
Okay, well, we have the pay-as-you-go system, or someone may be on a bill, which they're moving away from, a monthly bill. If you have the pay-as-you-go system, what you try to do is ensure that someone comes in with a certain amount of electricity to where they're comfortable for at least the next 2 days.
Right.
So let's say you have $50 on there, the next 2 days they're going to be comfortable, but you give them the information as to how to top up.
Right.
If their request is that they don't want to have to deal with that, then you have to price accordingly. You as a landlord have to be prepared to deal with with that cost.
Especially if there is air conditioning.
Air conditioning. Air conditioning, boy, that's a headache.
Why is that?
That's a headache because some people, quite frankly, as they do in hotels, they turn the AC on when they get to the property. Let's say 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they turn that on and they leave that on in the room.
So it's not advisable
All right.
if you're doing rental, vacation rental, to include. Is it advisable to include the electricity?
It depends on your type of property.
Okay.
And then you want to assess the person's patterns. You want to make sure that your contract is airtight. If the electricity after you have someone there for 1 week, if after 2 days you can track your usage, if after 2 days the usage is exorbitant to where you're going to be left with a $500 bill,
Right.
that has to be in your contract, that anything beyond a certain amount of kilowatts used within a period, you then pay for it. So that I say every contract is unique,
Right.
because that can be, you may be charging, let's say, 400 US for a week.
Right.
You can very well run up a bill of
$1,000.
of 200 US in electricity if you come in and from day one you have that AC on in both bedrooms, you have the lights on, you have the television on, you going out, you partying, you come home, you
And
use your
sometimes the
television to
fans
fall
too.
asleep, you have the fans blowing on the people who are sleeping on the sofas. So you come back, you have a $400 bill and $420 in income. you know.
The math is not there.
No, the math doesn't add up.
It doesn't add up. Anyway, Mr. James, let's take. I think we have a lot of talk, but let's take a quick break and we'll come back. You listen to Real Estate Talk.
E.H. Charles and Company Limited, the right place for quality products and dependable customer services when building, renovating, and remodeling your home. Visit E.H. Charles for building supplies, home decoration and garden supplies, plumbing, equipment, tools, and general hardware supplies. E.H. Charles and Company Limited is the right place, the right choice. We offer dependable customer services. Located on Goodwill Road, opens Monday to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Telephone 448-2390. E.H. Charles and Company Limited, the right place for quality products and dependable customer services. Member of True Value Company, agent for Makita Professional Power Tools and Berger Paint.
Time to sleep, darling.
Dad, are there any monsters under the bed?
Not while I'm here. You're safe and sound.
Feeling cared for, protected, and secure. It's a feeling that every Master United Insurance customer knows. After all, they're in the same safe hands, protected by our financial strength, stability, and experience, and cared for by our team. Now, all our customers are even more secure with the sound strength of Massey. It's a great feeling. Massey United Insurance. To learn more, contact our agents, J.B. Charles and Company Limited at 448-2876, CAM Dupini Inc. at 448-3012, and L.A. Dupini and Company Limited at 448-2310.
And we are back with Real Estate Talk. Marianne Johnfin, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. And we are continuing with Mr. Shagan James. He is a property manager. He's also a real estate agent also, if I should say so. And today we are talking about real estate and renting, different types of renting, and what we all should know. Before the break, we were talking about the short-term or the vacation rental. So what are some of the things that an owner quickly can be aware of in terms of the responsibility and what is expected of the tenant?
Okay, well, what is expected to the tenant, quite frankly, to go back to what I mentioned earlier, is to stick to your contract.
Mm-hmm.
What is expected of the owner is to stick to your agreement. But to break it down, owner needs to understand that they're renting a property under certain conditions, and that tenant has a right to privacy. That tenant has a right to enjoy the property without undue interference, undue harassment. The tenant needs to understand that they're coming into a property that was hopefully well maintained before they arrive, and they need to leave that property in the same manner. So there needs to be a level of respect and understanding from both sides, from both parties. And again, a lot of the specifics, it depends on the type of property and what is in the agreement.
Okay, let's talk a little about the long term. Lots of people are more into getting their property rented, even in the rural area. And I don't know if all of us understand. Many of them understand, what is their responsibility and the responsibility of the tenant. I've had some incidents where, especially the older heads, that they would feel that, like, one old lady demands that the tenant leaves the key. And she goes in whenever she wants, and he has to tell her where he's going. I had another tenant does the same thing. The tenant calls me and had me talk with him. She goes into the house unaware that he is there. Now, it may be your house, but at the moment that the person is there, is their home. You see?
Well, I had a friend and former colleague of mine, Devin Joseph. He's no longer, he doesn't reside in Dominic anymore. He used to say, Shagan, all you have to show your clients is love. So, but love can be, too much love can be stifling, right?
I think so.
Just like too much attention can be stifling.
Okay.
And it's an intrusion of privacy for someone to enter your dwelling without permission. Now, typically in a lease agreement for a long-term rental, you would see a clause allowing an owner or their duly appointed agent to enter into a property with given a certain amount of notice, usually not less than 24 hours and up to 72 hours, correct?
Right.
Unless in the case of an emergency, obviously, if you have a leak, something is coming through the floor, another tenant, someone is complaining, you can enter without any notice. There's a fire, a break-in. But typically, an owner should be prepared and adhere to the clause in your agreement that says you need to give your tenant a certain amount of notice. You also have to remember that this tenant is not your child.
Ooh.
Okay, this tenant, by the virtue of the fact that they are renting from you, it means that they are paying money for a service. Typically, they'll be over 18. If they're not over 18, they would have someone over 18 who has signed that contract on their behalf. And you've entered into a B2B relationship. All right, that's
Yeah, but also on that side, now with the the rights of the owner. The owner has the right to enter, to inspect, to maintain, to do repairs.
Right.
But you have to give the tenant
You must give notice.
a notice. at
I
least
mean,
24
you
hours.
have certain things in your private space which are just that private.
Exactly.
Okay, so there is no reasonable excuse beyond an emergency for me to come to my home and see an owner or a tradesman, a service provider in there. In and amongst my things. This is my private space.
Right.
It's an intrusion of privacy. It does not feel good.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And furthermore, based on your contract, it may also be a breach of contract
Right.
if you do that. So owners need to be very careful with that. Yeah, you know, some owners, they're close to their tenants and they can just make a quick call. Hey, I'm coming up. No, if the tenant agrees to that, fine. That can go ahead. But typically, it's stipulated in the contract that there's a certain amount of time that has to be given, a certain amount of notice before entering into the premises of your tenant.
In a long-term relationship rental, there is a deposit that is made. Can you explain to the listeners why is the need for a deposit?
Well, if you mash up my place, I want some money to take care of it. you understand?
Well,
But okay, but
you say, I mean, yeah.
but on a more detailed note, I think most people understand what the use of the deposit is for. In the language of a lease agreement, you would see language referring to a deposit which is paid, which is returned, refunded in part or in full within a week or 2 weeks or not more than 30 days after the end of the tenancy. So what that deposit is used for is to guarantee some type of compensation
In the event
that there is an issue. So if there is an issue with a broken toilet or any damage to the unit beyond regular wear and tear,
Beyond
that language is
regular,
always in there.
always there.
Regular wear and tear is the area where your sofa was. Is going to be, the paint is going to be a bit
little rub, you know.
a bit used. You know, there's going to be where your stove is. There's going to be some extra soot, some extra oil. That's regular wear and tear. There may be 3 or 4 bulbs out in the unit. That's regular wear and tear. You're not going to charge a person for that.
Okay.
But when you get into actual damage, and some people actually put a price point on that, say
because
anything beyond $350, that has to come from the
deposit.
Even something like removing the scent that a pet may leave behind. I mean, I've had a situation where carpets had to be fully vacuumed. I had to call up Bethlehem. I had to call up a company. That was a plug. We should get some money for that.
I hope we didn't catch it. Okay.
To come up and do cleaning to the sofas because the people, it was a furnished unit. The people had their pets in there, and that stench remained.
Ooh.
So obviously there's a cost to that, and the cost is significant.
Some owners are also, in terms of you want to finish what you're saying and then.
Yeah, so I was just saying that so in situations like that, you have the deposit that comes into play. Also, if someone leaves, also electricity is another thing, yeah? Electricity, water bills, that kind of things, you ensure that that's paid off. If it's not, you take that from the deposit. And you can go beyond that deposit to charge additional. You can charge a tenant additionally,
depending on the damages,
depending on the amount of damages that are assessed.
Because sometimes the deposit does not cover.
Correct. And when you're doing that assessment of damages, the tenant should always be present.
Okay.
All right. Also, the last month's rent may not have been paid.
Right.
In that case, even if there are no damages to the property, you can withhold that. But in in 99% of contracts, there is a line in there that says, in no circumstance will the deposit be used to offset any rental payment. Correct?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, bravo. So I'm seeing it.
You
have a contract right here.
I have a contract. At no time shall the deposit be used to offset any rent payment.
And the reason for that line in there, it's really unfair to be leaving a unit and just decide that, listen, you have my deposit. I'm not paying December's rent because December is my last month. Keep your deposit. No, that deposit is meant to take care of any damages because if you hold on to that deposit for rent then you have $400 worth of damages. You're actually coming out of there a net loss of $400. And the reason I say it's a loss is because the other income that you've made throughout the period that was agreed to.
Right.
So you knew that you were going to make $60,000 for the year on a $5,000 rental.
Right.
So if you now have $600 to pay, which was not agreed to, you now
At a loss.
get $60,000 less $600, you know, which is not necessarily fair to the owner.
Okay. A lot of times, you know, while you were talking, I'm shaking. I went to look at a property, and the lady said, "No, I'm not renting. Why she's not renting?" There was this older lady who had a horrible experience. This young lady was not paying her rent, and when she eventually got her out, that young lady took plaster and she plastered the whole thing. She went on a malicious vindicating, and she was so terrified by that. You know, when you get something like that, you know, how do you deal with tenants like that have maliciously damaged people's property and think that they are in the right?
Attorneys.
You know, many persons don't like attorneys because it seems...
we need to learn to like them, because in a case like that, you cannot go fighting with the person. At that point, it's beyond just a case of your security deposit. So you have to seek legal redress at that point. And as much as many broker like myself may be familiar with the law, we are not practiced and licensed to advise beyond seek legal advice. So at that point, you get an attorney and you deal with that. It may be vindictive, it may be payback for something, but if you feel you're within your legal right to seek compensation, you need to get the services of an attorney.
Before we take a break, let me just ask you quickly. So you rent a property for two persons. Is there a clause in the contract that stipulates, or can you just bring in another third person to live in the house or the apartment without anyone saying anything?
Okay, well, my contract, the contract I use, there's a clause in there that asks the tenants to reveal to the owners or to myself, because I'm also a landlord. The names of the people who would be using that residence, who will be using the premises, as a permanent residence.
Right.
So I don't need to know who's visiting.
Right.
Whether the person is visiting for even 2, 3, 4 months. What I want to know is who is legally using this premises as their home, as their place of residence. So when you go to Lime or to Digicel to get a phone, I want to know are you using my address as your place of residence? Okay, when you're going for a loan at the bank, if your place of residency is my address or the address of my tenant's property, your name needs to be written down on that contract as a permanent resident in that place. So the legality of it is understood. If there is a fire, if there's damage, if there's a robbery, I want to know who was legally supposed to be at that property. Because if you get robbed and Mary Ann John Finn is on my lease, and you have DJ Slim, our technician here, living in your house with you, but he's not on the lease, he may very well be a suspect in that robbery, you know. But if not, you know, we have an entirely different situation. So I want to know who is legally supposed to be living at my residence. So if someone brings in a third or fourth or fifth party, the lease should understand the lease agreement should understand or should point to the fact as to if he's supposed to be there, if he's not supposed to be there. If he's not on that lease, then you have to, that's a guest. That's your guest.
For how long are you allowed to have a guest?
I have never done a lease where someone isn't allowed to have a guest.
No, you can have. I believe that you should have a guest.
Yeah.
But how long? Because then, if I'm renting you my place and it's furnished, someone is furnished, and I'm renting it for you too, including water, including
Right.
except electricity.
Oh no!
other
If you're including those things, if you're including those things, and that's why I would advise, because let me tell you, there are a lot of situations where 3, 4, 5 months may pass by before you realize that someone has taken up permanent residency with your tenant. So if you're providing those things, that's why you have to ensure that the lease agreement points to what is the cutoff point. If you go beyond $200 in your Dawasco bill, if you go beyond $300 in your Domlec bill, you are responsible for that. But it's about your lease agreement and what you put in there. If you know for a fact that the wear and tear on your property with having 3 people in there is not desired, you stipulate in your lease that you cannot have someone there in a permanent nature or beyond a month or beyond 2 months. Let me tell you, if someone moves into your property and they're not satisfied with something in your lease agreement, they have a very easy option, and that option is what, Miriam? Don't rent the place. It's very simple. You do not rent the place because you're not comfortable, and I'm in full support of that.
You get a copy to review. Before.
Exactly, and that's why we also, not so much with rental agreements, but particularly with sales, but you can also do it for rental agreement. If you're not particularly au courant with the language in a lease agreement, take it to a third party, whether another broker, whether an attorney, or someone that is versed in looking at lease agreements, and have them explain to you point by point. I mean, it's usually the longest lease agreement I've seen is about 5-6 pages. All right, that's usually for commercial spaces. They can get pretty complicated. So if you're not comfortable going through it, take it to someone, have them review it, and explain to you and break down what is the requirements of you, the tenant in there. And if someone prepares a lease for you as an owner, you have to sit with that person and ask them to break it down for you, because guess what? January, February, March might be fine. But come April going forward, you may have an issue in there and you may be totally oblivious to what your rights are in that situation.
All right, Mr. James, so much more to talk, and our time is running out, so we're taking a quick break, and just to conclude when we come back. Stay tuned.
When you find affordable tools and material, it makes running a business so much easier. I'm Bevan, part owner of Rodney's Wellness Retreat in Soufriere. If you come into our retreat, you will notice that the majority of our hardware items are from L.A. Dupini, including kitchenware, countertops, faucets, pipe heads, appliances, and tools. It's not just the affordability that has us hooked, but it's the amazing customer service. The staff at L.A. Dupini goes the extra mile to make sure that we are happy and satisfied. We are constantly upgrading our Mayan baths by using the durable shovels and pickaxes that we found at L.A. Dupini. We don't only love L.A. Dupini, but we need them too. L.A. Dupini is our hardware store.
Castaways Development Limited residential lots for sale at only $10 per square feet. Average size 8,000 square feet. All infrastructures available. Most lots with awesome ocean view. Just a minute walk away from the black, silky, sandy beach of Miro, one of Dominica's most beautiful and popular beaches. Castaways Development Limited residential lots available. Contact Marianne Johnfin at 225-2121. Email mjohnfin@gmail.com. Website diamondrealtyde.com.
And we are back. We just have a few more minutes to talk. We are talking real estate and renting. And Mr. Shigan James, in conclusion, what would you advise to property owners who's looking to put their property up for rent? Quickly.
If you're looking to put your property up for rent, I advise that you seek the assistance of someone. If you're not versed in that area, seek the assistance of someone like Marianne, someone like myself, and the other brokers out there to walk you through the process. Make sure that your property is ready for rental, to where on day 2 you don't have a host of issues and a host of money to spend. So just seek the proper advice, ensure that your contract is airtight, contract that you understand that make sure that your tenant understands the contract, and you should be okay. There'll be some bumps along the way in the first week. Understand that you're going to get some calls about it,
and be ready to
and be be ready to step in and assist where assistance is required. And I think, as I said, you should be okay. So just as we wrap up, Marianne, away from the real estate talk, I cannot leave this program without saying, you know, best wishes to some friends of mine. That's Mario, Peter, and Anthony Ricketts.
Wow.
You know, just really wishing them the best. You know, with family, I think you can get through anything. I know this is a hard time, but all the best, guys. I just sending out positive vibes, positive wishes to you and to your family, particular to Anthony.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. James, and I pray that they are strengthened also. All right. I can feel your pain. I can do that. Anyway, thank you so much. This has been Real Estate Talk with Marian Johnfin, your host, the real estate lady, the best source for all your real estate needs. Should you need my service, Diamond Realty at da.com, 225-2121. Or Shagan, what's your number?
275-5455.
All right.
Okay.
Until next time, God bless.